Finish my love up. Hey everybody! Welcome back to Thursdays with Natalie and Nathan. I'm Nathan McTagg, this is Natalie Christensen, and we're the co-founders of the Center for Emotional Education. For the last 13 years, we've been helping the world's most powerful women have the relationships that they most want. Relationships that involve connection and reciprocity, without overworking, without selling themselves short, and without becoming someone that they don't respect. And at the core of our work is cultivating emotional sovereignty. We help these incredible women to get there through a mastery of brain state awareness and wizard levels of emotional intelligence. And today we want to talk to you about this question, am I lovable? And how reassurance never erases questions of lovability and what to do instead.
So typically how this shows up for people is that they have an uncomfortable feeling that comes with a story. Today we're going to use the example of just like having a messy house and the feelings that come up around that. But it can really, it pops up everywhere. I don't know, I'm starting something new, I'm not smart enough, if I'm not smart, am I lovable? My body is this way, is this kind of body lovable? Am I lovable with this kind of body? Or in this house example, it's kind of like maybe your house is a mess, or it's not as new as you'd like, or maybe something about it is wrong, and you have that kind of icky feeling in your stomach, and a little bit of anxiety or fear comes up, and then it kind of sinks in that it's shame. If I have a house that looks like this, I feel ashamed of that. And often what comes with shame is this question, am I lovable? That's what shame kind of wants to know. Here's this shameful thing going on, are you still lovable? And most of us think no. And so we want to hide that stuff, whatever it is that's activating that shame. We want to get that away because we don't like the answer to that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in order to feel better, we often check to see if the story's right. So in our example, Diana has a messy house and she's lovable. We all love Diana. And so trying to gather evidence.
And we gather evidence, and obviously there's no reason for me to feel shame. Other people love Diana, and so technically other people love me, so this shouldn't be a problem. But it doesn't usually work. We go, well, Diana's lovable, but I'm not. Is what we end up thinking, or okay,
Diana's
technically,
the exception.
Yeah, I guess in theory I'm lovable, but I sure don't feel it. I feel scared, I feel yucky in my stomach. Too. Well, feelings are okay, great theory, still here. They don't actually care. They don't get fixed by praise or reassurance or people telling you, no, you're great, don't worry about it. The feeling doesn't go anywhere. In fact, actually, we just try to shove the feeling down because now we're oh, thanks. We want to show the person that their reassurance was helpful and we're so grateful to them. So we're yeah, I'm better. Thanks, yeah, I'm better now. Not really, the feeling is still in there.
Yeah. So what Natalie's describing is how our feelings don't respond to this kind of reassurance for very long. But what feelings do respond to is the protocol that we use, which we call notice, name, touch. And so in this case, noticing would be something like, well, my house is a mess and I can't stand it. it's always this way. And then naming, you circle back through that same story to find out what the feelings are. So you notice that I feel frustrated and overwhelmed, but the worst part is that I feel shame about this. And then you add some touch. So something like empathizing with yourself, you put your palm to your heart, and you say something like, oh gosh, this is that same question I've struggled with for so long. I've always worried whether or not I'm lovable, if I'm not perfect. So like giving yourself the opportunity to notice the experience, to name the feelings that come up, and to empathize and offer yourself some touch there. And then what happens?
Well, we hope you also maybe cry, let some time pass, maybe, but often what barges into this process is feelings about that feeling.
Right.
So like we realize, okay, it's ridiculous, this is totally ridiculous, I can see Diana's lovable, she has a messy house, and I have a messy house, but I don't feel lovable, and I feel so much shame, and I feel so sad about that. Like I hate it. I feel so mad that this shame that I thought I had shaken off and I thought I'd worked through and I thought I was done with, like it's still following me around. So we can have anger and sadness about the original feeling, which was maybe shame in this instance.
Yeah. And so these meta feelings, if you will, because they're feelings about the feelings that we're having, also need their own processing. And so you can circle back through and offer the feelings that you discovered that you're having about the feelings that you're having an opportunity to have some room and to get processes as well. And so the notice, name, touch protocol for that maybe sounds something like, wow, a dirty house brings up a lot of feelings for me. I had no idea. See, it starts with frustration and exasperation, and then shame, and then sadness and anger, and then even more shame about all of those feelings. Whew! And so then the touch part is, whew, that's a lot. You might even do this kind of containment motion here, putting your hand on your neck and on your forehead, and let a little more time pass as you empathize with yourself about, man, that's just a lot of feelings to be carrying. Just totally understand how I could get triggered about that and wind up questioning my lovability around that. Right?
Yeah, the hardest part is to let time pass.
Mm-hmm.
We're more likely to like be here like, ooh, that's a lot, and then who else can I ask? Like, do you have a messy house? Are you lovable? Like, you're likely to go back into that loop.
Yes.
Because the feelings that we're talking about are so uncomfortable that there's a real urge to get away from them as quickly as possible. And what we're talking about is not processing just enough to like exist this afternoon, like just get through this moment. We call that like maintenance processing, like it increases your capacity this much so you can like not lash out at somebody, but it doesn't actually get enough of the feeling up and out for there to be some relief.
Yeah, and like you're saying, and I think it's important to underscore, that really can take a little bit of time, like holding space for those feelings, especially if they're bigger feelings like this, historical feelings like this that we have a lot of emotional pressure behind. We have a lot of buildup, if you will. It can take a little while for us to process through and to release enough of those that we really increase the capacity that we have.
And I like that you mentioned historical feelings, because a lot of the reassurance we are looking for is like, tell me today, partner, that I'm lovable, right? But the shame that I'm feeling, we know that if it's this strong that it probably predates even this relationship. So you can say, I like you, I think you're great, like I don't care if your house is messy, I still love you. And it's kind of like, yeah, okay, but that's why we talk about feelings not being fixable, because they predate any actions we would take in this moment. They weren't created by this moment, they can't be solved by this moment, they've been in there a long time.
Yeah, I think that it's also interesting to just piggyback off that often these kinds of upset feelings, especially something like shame, is directly related to and tied into our concept of whether or not we're lovable. Because as children, when feelings come up for us, one of the thoughts that children most tend to have is, I'm wrong, or I don't belong, or I'm broken, or nobody wants me, because of the upset feelings that we're having. So especially something like shame is sort of a double whammy, in that it's feelings that you may have a story of being unlovable around, and also feelings that come from the sense of not being lovable. So it really, really, really want to underscore the sense of giving yourself enough time to hold space for these feelings and allow them to be released.
Yes, because you could clean your house, right?
Yeah.
And then that shame that has been with you since you were little and you were having feelings, and a parent just like looked away or said, oh, ignore her, the tantrum will end quicker if you just don't give her attention. Like we would do these computations, like you said, when we were younger, like having feelings, the person that's my person is not available or tuning out or doesn't like it, I'm not lovable. Like it's just a like instant. So yeah, you could clean your house, you're like, house is all tidy. And then that shame will just look for a different place to come out.
Exactly.
Or you ask somebody, am I lovable? Yes, you are. And you're like, okay, thanks. And then you need to go to the next person. Am I lovable? I know I asked you yesterday, but what about today? Because that shame is going to look for a place to come out unless you just go ahead and let it.
Yeah. So then after we've moved through the feelings and they've started to ease a bit, then what?
So that's when... and it's really important, only then. So you process the feelings, you've sat with them, you can tell that they've eased. Like you literally feel different in your body, right? Your heart feels different, your stomach feels different, you're not hot, you're like, whew, like you feel like the storm is lifted. And only then, or at that point, that's when you want to kind of be that big loving person that we all want in our lives, to say it to yourself. And this is when you switch from, first you're saying I feel, now you switch to a you statement, like I see you, I love you no matter what, even with a dirty house, I'm gonna stay with you, you're important to me, I see you. Like any of those reassurances, that's actually going to matter more than if you polled 2,000 people and they said, yes, you have a dirty house and you are lovable. Thank you, 2,000 people. Can't feel it, right? But process your feelings, and then you say that to yourself after that processing, and it actually matters. Yeah. Actually lands.
Right. Because once you're back in your executive brain after the feelings have been processed somewhat, then working with your story and changing the story and changing your perspective becomes a lot easier. And I just want to underscore too what you were saying about using the second person. There's a way in which that sort of clicks on our social system, so we receive a statement to ourselves like, I see you, I love you no matter what, as though it were coming from someone that we really trust and care about, not just from ourselves, which is kind of how it works if we say, I see myself, or I love myself. Those don't land with the brain in the same way as using the second person, as we're giving you examples of. I see you, I love you, no matter what. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in with us today. We'll be back next Thursday with Thursdays with Natalie and Nathan. Be well.